Hello, hello out there, Facebook and YouTube. Welcome Piano Tech Radio Hour. This is Ethan, and we're just about to get started here. I'm going to spotlight myself and our guest for the day. If you're catching us for the first time, we're going to give an intro to the program momentarily. Let's see here. Spotlight would get us to small. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, welcome everyone. Good to see a nice turnout in the Zoom room today. Um, Always great to see you guys here. We might have had a little bit of a glitch with the setting out the links today, so apologize for that. If you're catching this on the recording, you didn't get to join us live. Day Stewart, great to see you out there in the LA area as well, I believe. That's kind of fun. And Lisa, do you live in Los Angeles? Is that where you are, or you just do some work there?
I'm between LA and Vegas. So I'm
Okay.
based
Okay.
in based in Vegas, but I have a place out in LA, so I'm there every week.
Okay. Wonderful. Sounds like quite an exciting life.
A lot of driving.
Yeah, I'm sure. You're not at the point where you're flying yet, huh? You're not taking the jet. That's too bad. Um, all right. Well, it's great to have everyone here. It's about time to intro the program and get started. So we'll dive in and let you know what's going on here. This is Piano Tech Radio Hour. Welcome. We gather here every Saturday to meet with and learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world, including manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal is to become better at our craft, to help each other, and to create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, an online learning resource that brings you cutting edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. You can also subscribe to Radio Hour for just $16 a month. You get direct access to each week's private Zoom call, as well as the archival recordings of over 200 episodes in our member area. Join using the link bit.ly/join PTRH. Also, remember to check out the podcast at pianotechradio.com. That's the audio only version of the program. Great for working in the shop, driving in the car, pumping iron, doing dishes, whatever you like to do while podcasting. We're represented in countries all over the world. We've reached the top of the charts in the performing arts category on iTunes quite often. And you'll hear we have fans in Belgium or the Philippines or France or Germany. It's always fun to hear where people are tuning in from and checking the program out. Also, make sure to check out our Substack. That's our blog where we dive in deep to piano technicians' favorite morsels of interesting content that you can't find anywhere else. You might learn about voicing, regulation, piano history, piano construction, the industry, all sorts of secrets of the trade you can't find anywhere else. And the blog will give you a sneak peek and see if you want to dive a little bit deeper. You can also find us on all the socials. You got Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, all that good stuff. All right, let us dive into the program today with our wonderful guest. Our guest today's name is Lisa Liu. She's a Juilliard-trained violinist, producer, and entrepreneur who has left her mark on over 300 film and TV scores, from Star Wars, The Force Awakens, to A Star is Born, and Family Guy. Her playing has shaped some of Hollywood's biggest productions. She served as concert master for The Voice, X Factor, and American Idol, while also producing and contracting musicians for top artists like Duran Duran and Gorillaz. Beyond performance, Lisa is at the forefront of innovation in music, co-founding the Los Angeles Conducting Co-op and launching ventures that blend orchestral production with cutting-edge technology. Lisa, welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour.
Hey everyone.
It's great to have you here. Yeah, this is going to be a really fun program. As I mentioned to you previously, I have a lot of connections in Los Angeles in the entertainment industry. Tech is really fascinating to me. I love the intersection of tech and entertainment as well. And of course, music is close to our hearts. So it's going to be a great conversation. I'm sure we'll find some interesting territories. Um, I'm guessing that you don't necessarily know our piano tuner friend Alday Stewart. He's a Los Angeles-based piano technician. I wonder if he's sort of interested to tune in today because of that. But let's start. way back in the beginning, a long, long time ago, once upon a time, you were a little one growing up, all cute and doing your, new activities, maybe some sports or, instruments or whatever. And somehow this whole thing of the violin came to be central, music became central. Give us a sneak peek. How did that all get started?
My mom is a retired opera singer. She went to Juilliard too,
Mm,
back in the 60s. So she actually started me on the piano. I've been playing piano since I was 3. That's the first thing I started. Like little, uh, I tried to like imitate stuff I heard on the TV, which is like I would like barely reach the piano.
nice.
Um, and then I studied piano and violin equally. Violin I really got into when I was 8. And I did it both equally until college. So I went to Juilliard pre-college and I gave a violin and a piano recital within a month. And I loved both instruments. I was excelling more at the violin. I think just I think just the size just like fitting my body more than but when I got to Juilliard, I was taking piano classes with the piano majors. Like I was taking their keyboard like theory stuff and
Mhm.
Veda Kaplinski, this renowned piano teacher, actually let me kind of like crash some of her master classes. Her students are like Yuja Wang, like these big stars now.
Wow.
But she let me be part of her community because I played throughout college. Um, and I used to, here you go, I used to hang out with the piano techs in college, like two of,
Okay.
I remember we have like, they had to work all, like every day. It was like a 7 day a
Mhm.
week job for these two guys because,
Okay.
the millions of pianos. Um, I think Juilliard t at the time, we tuned the pianos were tuned to like 441, I'm gonna say.
Okay.
And I know my violin teacher was Dorothy DeLay, who was like the most famous piano violin teacher of this like generation.
Mm.
Um, she had her piano tuned to 447. So we had some crazy Juilliard just like a little higher, maybe even I want to say even 443 in some pianos. I don't know. It's pretty
Hmm.
crazy. Um, because they wanted to breed soloists, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Then of course we come out in the real world of like we just can't play with anybody else. But yeah, I remember hanging out with the techs and like they were showing me how to do things and I got one of them bought me like a little kit.
Oh,
Like
really?
as if I was like a little kid trying to learn how to tune things. And yes, I'm really fascinated by what you all do.
That's great. Yeah, I mean I believe he's still the current tech. There's a gentleman named Mario Egrek. He wrote a book called Pianos Inside Out, but he also has only been there. I mean, it's been a while now, but it's maybe been like 5 to 8 years or something maximum. But we've had him on the program. He's taught some of our master classes as well. And so we got a little bit of a behind the scenes look at what it's like at Juilliard. Some people run around and they want to do some prepared piano thing, and he's got to be like, okay, like here's how you do it to protect the piano, right? Or people get a little bit creative and they want to dance on the piano, and he's going, okay, like this is how we're not gonna dance on the piano, or this is how we're
Not
gonna do it, right?
not like lay out all of your food that we're eating like on the piano.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
ramen falling. I
Yeah.
mean, I wish the piano techs at Juilliard they could totally write a book that's like about the things that they've seen and heard. Like, because they
Hmm.
are the guys that like just kind of are in and out and go unnoticed, but they're around all of us all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
They've got some gossip. I know
Yeah,
it.
oh yeah, I'm sure there's that too. And it's just a delicate balance, which is just, I think, society's confrontation of creative people in general. You got to
Right.
let them do their thing, and then every once in a while, people got to rein them in a little bit.
Oh
You
yeah,
went
no,
too
they're
far.
they're the masters of like navigating egos, you
Yeah,
know?
that's amazing. Yeah. Actually, we've had some stories. I don't know if we told them on air. I know one guy, I won't say him, or I won't say the artist, because if we've shared the story, I don't know that we said, but he had a piano in his he was a tech for a amphitheater or whatever, right? Like a theater. And he had a piano, I believe it was signed by Lang Lang. So he had this
Okay.
piano. Lang Lang had came. And they said, "Oh, we'll sign the piano." Lang Lang writes it on the piano on the right there on the plate, And everybody's like, "Oh, that's great! Lang Lang signed the piano. It's wonderful." So this other pianist showed up who was good, but like not a lot of people like knew who he was per se, and he wasn't Lang Lang. And he goes,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'll sign the piano. Let me sign the piano." They're like, "No, no, 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 don't sign the piano. Thank you."
Here, like here's a pencil.
Yeah, like here's a pencil. And he actually went, and his ego was so large that he just went and signed it anyways.
Oh.
And then they had to work on getting it off of there.
Oh no, like a tattoo removal.
Not
He
pretty
just like
hilarious.
devalued whatever Ling Ling was.
Exactly. Lang Lang, Joe Schmo. Me
That's
too.
really
So 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 I was curious a little bit how you made the choice, but I think you went into that. Personally, when I first of all, I started out my university journey not studying music, but being so obsessed with it that I decided to pursue it. I was considering piano or trumpet. I played trumpet in our little band, in our high school band and stuff like that. But yeah, there are those turning points. I think that happens to a number of students of music. Once you get to the university level, no matter how hard you try to kind of keep it up with multiple things, you could play them all.
yeah.
But if you want to study, you stick to one.
Yeah, to be great at one thing. It's also,
Yeah.
I think, looking back, I when I talk to kids who are getting started or parents of kids, it's like we don't consider the social element when we choose an instrument, right? Like what it
Mm-hmm.
does for you socially and like you're in it as a pianist, you're your whole band. Like you're just in there. But which I loved. I loved being like really private and just not being around people, but the violin forces you to have to always be with other people. And a
Mm-hmm.
violin forces you to take the lead, just
Mm.
for the instrument.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know, those are things that really can impact your behavior and personality growing up, I think. Like really, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing. I mean, uh, as someone who's got all sorts of crazy ideas and projects going on and trying to work with other people, but also maintain my ideas, it's definitely something I'm very conscious of, especially when I butt heads with someone else or we're not working well together. Inside my head, I go, is this a is this a problem with me? Like, do I need to be able to work with people better? Or is it not a problem with them, but it's a problem that I need to be able to communicate better or speak my
Yeah.
voice better, right? And so you've just raised this, which I didn't think of much, is that yes, piano does allow you to not have to do that as much. You could kind of sit down, you could do your own thing, put it all together. It's not like a bass player, where you can play the bass all you want by yourself, but it's not going to sound good unless you get in a band.
You need to be around people, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's very interesting. Um, so you've gotten into all sorts of interesting domains here, and I'm tempted to start almost chronologically. Like we listed a bunch of stuff like film and television and these various shows that are kind of iconic that you've been involved with. You went to Juilliard. You lived in New York. I lived in New York, by the way, for a while. I'm in Chicago now. I still have a piano tuning business there. But how did things start to emerge there as you're a student at Juilliard? You're learning the ropes. You're in this beautiful town with all these resources. Did your career start to evolve as you were still a student, or did it start to blossom once you graduated? How did that come together?
I think it's continuing what we're talking about with the personalities. I just was a little put off by the classical audience,
Hmm.
and then even in the culture of, we spend months preparing a recital only to have like, my parents or a few people coming off the street or your friends or your competitors. It's
Hmm.
so much pressure to just be precise when you play classical music, right? You're just like you're
Yeah.
executing this thing you've been mastering for months and crafting, and you get like a little polite applause, and then we just move on, right? And then
Hmm.
like now what? And then during Juilliard, I there was a work study office and there like a bulletin board where you could go see what jobs are available performing and there was a little ad asking for musicians to come play for a project for the Pope, and this was 2001, right after 9/11.
Mm.
And so I called the number and go to the studio, and I meet this producer, Rick Garson. And I say him now because 25 years later, I'm working with him in his space now. So
Okay.
he was a huge producer then, and he created the Billboard Music Awards. Worked on with major stars, TV shows, NFL, like Olympics as a producer, like in the broadest sense of that term, right?
Yeah.
You know, he introduced me to the idea of improvising. So he had an engineer, and this was a project for the Pope with multiple celebrities at the time speaking words of prayer
Hmm.
for peace. It was like Britney Spears, Aerosmith, James Earl Jones, Brooke Shields, like people. And he just wanted me to, as a violinist, improvise. And I was like, I don't know what that means. Like straight out of literally straight from Juilliard.
Right.
My brain
Studied classical music. Yeah.
studying
It-
classical music and learning what other people are doing down to detail and just imitating, right? So he introduced me to Patron. That helped, like tequila. I was like, okay.
there
And
you go.
it was just the most bizarre thing trying to force myself to create something in my brain. Um, and that really it intrigued me, this whole thing of like, wait, I can play something that hasn't already been written and try to find my way with the violin or the piano. So from that, I started playing with like auditioning and for other genres just out of curiosity. I'm always trying to like challenge myself. Like when I hear about things that I have never done, I jump right in. Like I'm
Hmm. That's great.
happy failing just to learn. I started playing with like pop groups, rock groups, electric violin. I played in this club called Excel that had a drag queen opera singer, also a singer who went to Juilliard as a bass baritone. But he put on a fat suit, and his character was Jesse Normus. Um,
Nice.
and Jesse Norman knew of our show and like was really supportive of it. But
Nice.
I was the pianist for that for a couple years,
Hmm.
music directing this, and then I just wanted to, it was just became so much work doing that. So I was like, I just want to play the violin and think less. So I did that show for a good 6 years, and that introduced me to like the club scene. So I started playing in nightclubs like 6, 7 in the morning with like, and it was just like an amazing experience with this audience and the energy. And I just was like, this is what I'm drawn to is feeling like I'm having people have a good time.
Yes.
It is not what you do when you play classical music. Like I'm not
There's
in,
no stomping on the floor,
at least in my,
shaking your booty.
yeah, like stressed and like, can we get through this? It feels like you're always trying to impress people or
Right.
in classical, whereas I with these other genres, people are just out for a good time. Like they're
Mhm.
this community of like, let's experience this on stage together with audience participation. I learned to play some Middle Eastern, a little bit of everything. So I was
Mhm.
mediocre at a lot of things at this point, and played with like Mahavishnu Project.
Oh, wow.
I was
That's
just
great.
really interested in everything else but classical. And I
That
was
was
teaching,
Jean-Luc Ponty, right? I think was with
oh yeah,
Mahavishnu many years ago.
Mahavishnu. Yeah, the OG, the original. And I played in the tribute thing. And then my parents, we were from Pennsylvania. They retired and moved to LA. And I was teaching in the South Bronx, like hundreds of kids, piano and violin for about 6 years. This is in my 20s, right after college. I was at Juilliard for 9 years, you guys.
Oh,
I
okay.
was one of those people who never left. And it's because of Dorothy DeLay, when you were one of her students, you just stayed like forever. So I stayed until she passed the year I was graduating.
Wow.
And then I taught freelanced in New York. When my parents moved to LA, I decided to just like, I needed a new change. I needed something. Came to LA. I got very, very fortunate. Just meeting musicians, playing the little gigs here and there, and then being asked to sub for them, and then kind of getting your name around. And everything in LA, again, probably like anywhere else, is word of mouth as a
Sure.
freelancer. You just
Sure.
keep getting recommended. I
Yeah.
got really fortunate to get into this scoring world. That was,
Hmm.
and that's where I am now. That's where I've kind of remained for the past until the past few years, and we can get onto that.
Yeah. That's fascinating too. I mean, I do think that what you said happens, in all sorts of places. You meet the right people and word spreads and things like that. But it's interesting, you're one of a handful of people who very specifically had that story of coming from some other place and arriving in Los Angeles. And then they met these people, and then that's where things grew from there. We've had actually a piano technician come on the show who wrote a memoir about his life as a piano technician, and moving from his small town in Texas, and kind of achieving his dreams and things like that, becoming a recording artist. But yeah, he arrived, he had this story. He just went to like a club where some of the session musicians were playing one night. He literally had just got there, and then boom, like a few weeks later, he's like tuning a piano for Herbie Hancock or something. I'm probably, shortening the timeline there, but stuff like that happening. We also had another session musician, a fellow who played guitar on like Avril Lavigne's famous tracks and things like that. I think he told a similar story. You kind of meet the right people and you get in the scene. Um, but it's also interesting getting into the scoring world and just getting into like film and television in the first place. Because some people, they go and that's their intention, and they can't for the life of them get anywhere, right? Say, oh, I want to be a film composer. I mean, or whatever, work in film and television music and things like that. And it's like they're just slogging it away, and it's actually really hard. So it's interesting to see somebody do it in such a diverted way, and it just comes together.
I just spoke this week. I was in New York speaking to film scoring students at NYU about entrepreneurship and some music contracting questions they had, and it was, you have to just find your own way. There's no like system to break into. You just have to always focus on what you want to do, and when the opportunity comes, when somebody meets you and they're like, hey, what do you have? They can look you up, or they can call people who've worked with you. Everything is just your network and your reputation and how you present yourself. Right.
Hmm.
So it's like in now, so I started contracting early on when I moved to LA because a producer, Marco Marinangeli, uh, he worked on Hannah Montana back in the day with Miley Cyrus. He asked me to contract for X Factor. And he said, he'd been working with other contractors in town for years, but typically they're just business people. If you want to hire politically or whatever, and it's that they don't have the standard of musicianship that you would hope that they would have, but they, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
He asked me to just hire my friends who I went to school with, and now because I had such a wonderful time doing that. Oh, actually, the show that he asked me to contract was America's Got Talent.
Hmm.
So I had such an amazing experience just hiring my friends. Like I have an opportunity to share that now that's what I inspires me to still contract. It's an
Hmm.
opportunity to create like my own sort of community, you know, just have it's what I look forward to. It's just, being able to be creative with your friends,
Hmm.
d- contribute to a bigger project and get paid for it.
And so, just to use the define terminology here, you say your contract, and it sounds kind of like when a contractor, when they're building a house, like you got the person in charge, and then they get all the other people. You got the woodworker and the
Yeah.
drywall person and the plumber or whatever. And so, instead of it being the house, it's you. You're contracting, and you're saying, I need the violinist, I need the guitar player, the person who plays that weird Middle Eastern instrument that we got to bring in for this song or whatever. You're the person that's putting the project
Yes.
together.
Yeah, like currently, like this morning, I was working on an upcoming film that I'm going to hire 40 musicians. So I have to determine the budget. That's a negotiation with the big production studio, of course. And then once we lock that, We find the location. I select all the players and then make sure everything goes smoothly, make sure the composers are happy. You know, the contractor is also like the host of
Hmm.
the whole event, making sure everybody's like happy. You know, from
Sure.
the musicians to the producers to you know, everybody
Yeah.
in the room.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Um, so zipping back and over to some things we already mentioned, entrepreneurship, you said you were talking to musicians at NYU about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is something I'm passionate about as well. Um, there's usually like a turning point. I remember I was a piano tuner just out of college for a few years. Um, I actually got ambitious and bought a house with a friend of mine at that time. And my friend was actually a contractor, like a housing contractor, and I would do gigs for him, just had, hey, paint this thing. I'm like, yeah, I'll do that and make a little bit of dough. And we would talk, we were friends, and I said, someday I want to have a business. He's like, you do already have a business. You're a piano tuner, you go and you tune pianos, that's your own business. I said, well, I want one where, I have other people that work on a team, and things like that. And the reason I'm telling this story is I actually don't know when it happened, but there's different points along your journey where you maybe actually call yourself an
Cool.
entrepreneur, or somebody else might be like, you're an entrepreneur, right? I've had that moment with people, where they're like, I'm doing this and that. Like, you're an entrepreneur, you didn't realize that. So what was the moment where that started to be part of your parlance, and something that you identified with?
Uh, yeah, I had to be told that too, and I didn't take it seriously. I was like, that's nice, that's cute, whatever. And when I was I was doing for about 6 years almost I want to say almost exclusively studio work because it was so new to me and fascinating to break into the scene, and I know how fortunate I was. And on the side, this is interesting. On the side, I was working with another partner to create a cannabis product that would mitigate the negative side effects of the cannabis. So it would be for people who wanted to use it at work, or people need to sleep or experience pain. So I have these tinctures that they're patent pending now. So
Oh,
this is
wow.
something where I'm actively working on this right now. Uh, I started introducing it to my community, people who don't are not have no intention of getting high, are not into not interested in recreational means of it, but I was introducing it to some people who really needed help, right?
Hmm.
Just improvement of quality of life. So that was like, yeah, you're an entrepreneur. Like you're thinking about a business and it's now has nothing to do with music whatsoever. There's no connection to what this is. I think that's when it was like, oh yeah, I'm officially that.
Mm. Okay, interesting. And then do you see, so that's going on, that's something you definitely feel is entrepreneurship. And then do you see the worlds now coming together at all? Do you consider yourself an entrepreneur in the musical domain or not? Or
Yeah.
how do you think about it?
This is another story. I went to watch Mike Tyson speak a few years ago
Okay.
at the Soho House, and he was giving a talk it was like an inspiring talk about what he does, like the multiple things he has now. He's got his huge cannabis business and he's got his shows, his pot, all of it, right? And when I talked to him, I approached him. I was like, I'm going through this thing. I've always just been a violinist, but now I have other things and I'm torn, like my identity. He's like, you're not a violinist. These are all just things that you do. He's like, you're like you're a person.
Hmm.
No, these are just who cares about a label or this or that. He's like, I'm not a boxer.
Hmm.
I'm just a Mike, you know? And I was like, oh my God, you're my guru. Like it was just, but to see I self-identified as a entrepreneur open up my world to other
Hmm.
things. You know, when you're just like, I'm a violinist, and I see it now in my musician friends, they just see that you're so limited to your view of the world and what you think you can do. Like as a violinist, I can only take this job. I can only speak this way or behave
Hmm.
this way. And as an entrepreneur, world is just open. I'm whatever I want. It's just the world is becomes your playground when you say you're an entrepreneur because it's really taking all the accountability and passion and putting it into yourself.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I totally get that. And I mean, you know, people are who they are. I found that, you know, everybody's got their different paths in life. But when I look to the future, I remember hearing Sal Khan from Khan Academy, the guy who started that kind of like online tutoring thing that turned into like a global education project. And this was like back in like 2005 or 10 or something like that. And he's going, you know, the way that technology is evolving, robots and AI and all of these things, this is before we've even seen what we've seen, you know, humans are going to be less needed for some of these sort of very clear, you know, regimented tasks that you can be trained for, and that's all that you do. We're going to have to be more creative in the future. That's going to be our unique human ability. Well, of course, we're seeing a little bit of contrast to that with AI can even be creative now, but but he's saying, you know, that I see that's humanity's going in this domain where we're going to be more, we're going to have a creative economy, right? And I think that I especially identify with people like what you're saying, you know, you don't become, it's not like you're the candlestick maker, right? Or the butcher, the baker, right? You become you and you do what you do best to help serve the community. And a lot of that can be creative. So it's not for everyone yet, or maybe someday, but I definitely identify with that as a path that more people ought to be open to and maybe even plan for that's what you're going to have to do. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In what in our field, like in music, I think we have to be entrepreneurs because the landscape keeps shifting. There's the work keeps moving around territories or evolving because of AI. We have to adapt, or we're just like we can't be in this archaic mindset or we will be lost to technology or other competition or people younger coming up or the younger people are more entrepreneurial right now because they have to be, right? So
Hmm.
I think we have to just stay ahead and think about creating our own opportunities in that workspace because we're not, like you said, we're not like just this one thing that we do.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Um, you know, I was curious to talk a little bit more about your experiences here in like conducting and have you done, it's hard for me to tell, you know, from the research that I've done, have you done much in the way of actually composing, or you're more just in that world? You're not like creating scores or much, or I know you're doing some improvisation. How much are you actually you know, creating the score or kind of writing or composing music?
I've done I've scored one feature, I've scored one documentary and a couple shorts, and then I arrange music here and there for whatever gigs we have. I have been asked to score some more features and things coming up. Because I do so many things, I used to think it was like a weakness, right?
Hmm.
Jack of all trades, master of none for years. And I was like, is it me? Am I scattered? I get bored very, very easily.
Hmm.
I want to be a violinist this few months, but then if I have a conducting thing, I just want to do that. If there's a composing thing that interests me, it has to really interest me. It has to be where it's, I will do it.
Hmm.
So I would say that I do have a lot of projects upcoming where I will score,
Hmm.
but they have to be compelling to me
Hmm.
to
Okay.
pursue whatever I want to at the time.
Yes. Yeah. So it's a part of what you do, but only when it really feels like it's worth putting the energy into.
So I think that's also part of Mike Tyson saying not to label yourself with like I just do this because
Yeah.
I'm not a composer in the sense that there are people who just do that or
Yes.
just conduct. I want the flexibility, just whatever project sounds really great, that they're sexy at the time. That's when I want
Hmm.
to do whatever it requires of me.
Hmm. Um, Tell me again. I think we just touched upon this. What? you moved to the Los Angeles area, which is very interesting, not to pursue Los Angeles because your parents moved there. Just kind of
Yeah.
a, so and then you just happen to be a great scene for you to be in. Um, Las Vegas, though, you said you kind of live in Las Vegas and now you're doing things there and there. How does that happen?
So about 2 years ago, I started working. Let me jump back. 2020 up until then, again, I was just violin, mostly studio work, some live stuff, an occasional short tour here and there. Uh, I I I up and quit. Like I quit most of the studio work, as in I quit working for other contractors because I felt like it's time for me to grow up and be on my own and take my own business into my own hands and pursue these other projects I have as a producer now or as a composer, whatever. So 2020, I stopped. My last movie was like that last Star Wars that came out with John Williams. That was the last thing I played for somebody else.
Hmm.
And a couple projects came to me, shows that are to be built in Vegas, and these two different shows, they're still in development. Those shows asked me to come on as a producer, right? So to
Okay.
come on first as my musical knowledge, not as a composer. I would be, finding the composer or finding whomever, right? And I just was like, let me, Vegas. I love Vegas. That's an interesting place. Maybe it's time to just like, let's just move there. So I told my husband and my parents, who were also living in my building, we were all in LA, living in the same building. And I was like, I think I want to move to Vegas. And they immediately were like, great, let's go. Like just they never, no flinching.
Okay.
They supported me when I was like, hey, I'm going to quit all the work that I've been doing. I'm just going to leave it. They're like, great. I mean,
Oh
I was
yes.
like, this is crazy. Like I was expecting some sort of pushback, you know?
You need
Um,
to talk to my family. They've got
yeah,
different ideas. Yeah.
I know, but I couldn't because they responded that way. I was like, shit. Then
Gotta
they
do
believe
it.
me. I'm gonna have to do it.
Yeah.
So now it's really been incredible. My parents, they're 87 and 90. They live right next door to us. They built their house. My husband and I built this house right next to them. So we have this like sitcom life where I wake up and my two puppies, we go over and visit my parents every morning, and it's that. So while I'm here, I am now working with who I mentioned, Rick Garson, who I met 25 years ago.
Hmm.
He we're currently building a massive space in Shanghai that will have six theaters inside. Each of these theaters will have an immersive, interactive type presentation. And one of the things we're working on is a Michael Jackson uh, show, and we're working with one of the Michael has like four tribute shows in Vegas. So we're working with one of them, and we were going to place and build a new show and bring that to Shanghai for this immersive. Um, and we have another project with, Josephine Baker. Uh, Another is Masha and the Bear. It's like the number one children's show in the world.
Okay.
And yeah, this is where I'm headed now. So it's called the Sister Cities Orchestras, because my partners are in multiple cities. I want to be able to build shows with producers, for instance, like Jermaine Dupri or David Guetta. If I can build a show with my orchestra in New York and perform at Lincoln Center with essentially non-classical stars, right? Not that I'm focused on the producers and their music, and building shows here in Vegas, Shanghai, Los Angeles. So that is what we're working on with my multiple projects with
Mm.
multiple partners right now.
Wow.
And in essence, of course, it'll always come down to where can I fit myself in as a violinist, right? Because that is still ultimately where my passion lies, or can I conduct this show? But I am now approaching everything as a producer with
Hmm.
that mindset. And so
Wow.
that's why I'm in Vegas.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess yeah, that makes sense. Could have gone a lot of directions, but that makes sense. it's a place that's known for its shows, and it's, really awesome, entertainment spectaculars,
They're slated to become Hollywood 2.0. You know, a lot of the big Warner Brothers and Sony are going to merge in Vegas to build their own like massive sound stages, scoring
Hmm.
stages, right? Um, they're just everything's kind of flowing out here. Like all the big stars are now here. Like it used to be where, people would retire and perform and have this amazing existence. But now it's like you have the young big stars. I played with Adele, the singer Adele, for a couple years on her
Hmm.
resident.
Hmm.
Here. It ended last November.
Wow. Yeah.
But that was a really great opportunity that came as well. Yeah, the
Wonderful.
Vegas is the place to be.
Yeah. Interesting. Um, I want to ask you just for fun. So you drive Los Angeles to Vegas. Um, what's the time there? What is that? Like a few
4 hours.
hours? What is it for?
Yeah.
What do you do when you drive? Do you listen
Oh,
to music,
well,
podcasts? What?
no, I get so much work done. I listen to music like just the whole time. And normally I don't have time to do that just in the office. So it's like I get my listening done. 4 hours goes pretty fast.
And are you driving alone or with your partner or both, or how does that work?
Usually my partner tries to come with me when he can. If not, I'm in and out. We have a
Go
place
for
in
it.
Hollywood.
Oh, but you said you have we said this, I think, beforehand. You have a Tesla.
Tesla's
Does it
really
have the self-driving so that you can
does.
be, that's nice. That is key because driving that far can really take a toll on you, but
Oh yeah.
the the self-driving really allows you to relax more. It's interesting how much less energy, even though you have to sort of pay attention and make sure things don't go wrong. Just the fact that you have to expend less energy, like being aware, it's actually really a big difference after a long trip like that, right?
No, I would not be making the weekly trip in my Honda. It would be,
Mm-hmm.
it'd be like too much. But yeah, the Tesla, I just kind of put it on. I can listen to music and really just it kind of is enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a couple puppies. That's why we don't fly. Just
They come
not
with you. They go with you.
sometimes. Sometimes I'm with.
Nice. That's great. Um, Well, that's fun. Thanks for sharing that little tidbit. Have you ever been? You've never been to Skywalker Sound per se, have you? I have. I don't think we showed it yet. I have some footage. One of our community members, Larry Lobel, he does work with them as a piano technician, and so I visited San Francisco um, about a year ago, or maybe like over the summer, I think it was. And I got to tour Skywalker Sound. I wish I could have been there longer. It's a really amazing place. But I'm sure it gave me an idea. I could see from some of the pictures and videos of you online. That's kind of your domain. You're in these sound stages and you know working on cues and putting together these teams of players.
Yeah, it's the most fun. Those are the highlights of work. Is when the score is done and we can all just be in a room together and like it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it. Yeah, it sounds like it's a very fulfilling career for you. If you don't mind, and if you do, you could say so. Can we talk a little bit about your relationship? Just because it's interesting, I've noticed that you mentioned it at least like on your website. Your partner's also a creative person, and you're not shy about highlighting what each other do. And I don't know, do you collaborate or
Yeah.
tell us a
My
little bit about that?
my my my, I call him my male. His name is Mitch Hensman. The um he's a visual artist and the past few years since I branched off into production entrepreneurship, yeah, I can't do anything without him. He's doing everything. I mean, he's literally actually taken on the cannabis business himself. Like he's creating it. He isn't to have an artist in the home who's also a graphic designer. All the logos, upcoming merch we're gonna have with our businesses, like all of these things. He excels at those things. He's been an artist at Trader Joe's for like 15 years.
Oh, really?
He's
Interesting.
done like full on murals in the stores, right?
Oh,
Like
nice. Yeah, I always wondered who made those.
yeah, they're each he had the last position of being actual a resident artist in Trader Joe's. They've wiped out that position now
Okay.
because it's become, of course, they're using AI to replace artists, which is
Oh no.
a thing. But he's still doing art, which is as an artist very fortunate. Last year we were asked to do a video by a biotech company to introduce an upcoming device, right? So my Mitch got to design this actual device that will be in people's homes, hopefully 2026. So things like that. He's great at leading art teams, storyboarding, just design, and he just from the Michael Jackson projects, he spent like a month digging up old videos of Michael Jackson and his family. He Ask him anything about the Jacksons. He knows it now because he spent just he'd be the one collecting data for footage for a we're currently also working on a metaverse concert with Michael Jackson. So he had to design a lot of these like NFTs, different little things that are going to be used. So it's yeah, it's a creative house and I love that we could just I mean, it is the ultimate dream. It's just working with my husband at home and with my parents next door, and it's lovely.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's great to hear. Um, and to have creativity be such a big part of it. I remember it was one of those first sort of inspirational moments on this topic of like creative couples. There was a movie that came out. It was just like a little indie film, but it was called Four-Eyed Monsters. If you get a chance, maybe check it out. It was a little indie film back in mid 2000s, and it was like two people who just started dating, and one of them was like a filmmaker and the other was like an artist and like a dancer and these things, and they started their relationship through uh like a creative engagement, right? So like on one of their first dates, like maybe they didn't even talk, but they just drew pictures, together or something like that. And ultimately that whole concept turned into them making a documentary about like having this creative relationship and what it's like to be in a relationship with somebody who you're also like a creative partner with. And it's, four-eyed monsters, right? You got two four eyes, two people. But that intrigued me, being a creative person and sort of it's fun. It doesn't always happen. And sometimes it's a total, you know, mess, if you have two creative people that are, you gotta have, oh, who's the adult in the room, like that kind of thing. But that's cool when it can happen. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, we're
Um,
lucky.
So you spoke quite a bit about the things that are on the horizon here, the things that are in the works. Um, Tell me a little bit more about your, if at all, role as a mentor. You've taught. Is it simply that you've taught your piano lessons and your violin students? Um, do you find yourself attracting folks who are like, oh, this is interesting. You found an interesting path. Can you help me? Or is that not become a part of your
And
environment yet?
no, it's constant. It's constant mentorship.
Oh, okay.
I actually had a student that I taught in the Bronx when she was 10 stay with us for a week last month. She's now 30.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I went to a student's wedding last year. Kids I taught 20 years ago. It's really incredible that those relationships though that they don't go away. Even when if I don't speak to them for like 10, 15 years, it's like those connections are still there. No, I see myself as a mentor to younger people, and I when I hire, I actually like the newer faces. I like to give opportunity to them because
Mhm.
that was given to me. People had to give me a chance, right? Or people still have to keep giving me a chance. So in this community, I think in, you have to find like-minded people and just keep paying it forward. So I do mentor a lot because I contract. I like my community be a certain way.
Mhm.
I'm very I don't know how much you know about the scene, the studio scene. It's super political, as you can imagine.
Not a lot. We've heard a little bit about
Oh,
it, but yeah, go ahead.
it's not politics as in that kind of a
Yeah,
political,
nobody, it's not Republicans and Democrats.
none of that. Well, I mean, that's whatever. That's a whole thing.
That might be part of it.
That is part of it, but
Okay.
it is, I mean, I don't want to get into things, but it's like, the political mindset that you have to have working in Hollywood.
Mm.
Just have to, you
It's a
have to
system of relationships and favors and,
favor
and reputation
reputation,
and
a
yeah,
little like strong arming people. There's a lot of like subtle threats, like of power, a lot of power plays, and it's like I don't like that. I when I
sure. Yeah.
came from New York, I'm like, what is this? What is all this LA? We're all friends, but then you just I don't like it. I just I was extremely unhappy in that community, and I want to be around talent. Like this is
Hmm.
what I do. Like I'm a musician. I want to be around other people who are just trying to contribute and play well and do
Hmm.
well and then go home and be cool. Like,
Hmm.
why can't
Yeah.
we have that? And I was like, no, I'm going to create that.
Okay. Yes.
So I'm really proud to say my environment is like people, they tell me, right? They're like, when they see that it's a call from me, they're like, oh my God, yes. Because they know that they're going to be treated well. They're being honored. I feel very fortunate that they say yes because they're gifting us with their talent. They're not just an anonymous person who, like, in the studios, you're treated like you're just on a list. You're just a warm body who owns an instrument,
Hmm.
maybe a car, right?
Hmm.
But for me, it's like, no, I really want you there. When I contract or I produce a show, I'm thinking of my friends. Like, I don't, imagine my friends sitting there and them in these roles, right?
Sure.
And then
It's like a
that's
theater company.
it's a theater company. You want people that you like there, right? And I always tell other composers, producers, feed the musicians. They'll just feed them. It's so easy to just provide a warm meal.
Pizza.
That's all it takes. Pizza and coffee. Like you're gonna have the happiest people because you're honoring them. Like I as a musician, like I know what it's like to be treated by these contractors where you're just they don't give a shit about you, right? But as a musician myself, I'm like, no, these people have put in thousands and thousands of hours into their craft for since they were children, and to just be treated like an anonymous, I just can't have that. So my community is like, I love my friends, I take care of them, they're happy, they can't wait to come back. And
That's great.
in the end, the filmmaker, they have the best possible creation because it's like done with like joy.
Why not? If you could do it with the joy, why not do
Why
it?
can't people have it? Why can't people be happy? Why can't we enjoy ourselves? Like
There's always more.
it
There's
can
always
be fun.
more.
We can all get along, people. It's just
I do, yeah. I have a friend who had moved to Los Angeles to do film composition and, got into the industry and has done it, relatively successfully. But hearing about, you know, the it's interesting. You don't realize this as a spectator, but in the entertainment industry, you would think it's just this kind of loose, creative, thing. But there's these like hierarchies of what you got to do you got to do this, you got to pay your dues with this, you got to do this. And the one part that was always fascinating that I remember learning early on, it's like you have to write music for somebody else. You're writing the music, they're putting their name on it in the movie. You write the music, they put their name as the composer. And then at some point, then you get your like little break where they put your name in the credits as somebody who wrote the music, even though you were writing the music
additional music.
anyways. And yeah. And you have to kind of keep working up to these little, what is your name in the credits? And you realize like the credits aren't just something to recognize everybody at the end. They're like this little record of who did what so that you can check on that and see it.
I think if anybody like if we had to make a list of all the rules to survive in Hollywood, nobody would go to Hollywood. You would just, but it's like what you're saying, it's all these composers, the interns would come in bright-eyed like, "Hey, I got a job for this big composer." And it's like, "Say goodbye to your life." Say goodbye to, you have no, oh, it's heartbreaking. There are articles that have come out about that system the past couple of years and how a lot of these big composers they don't write their own music except for John Williams. He pencil to paper, writes everything himself, and
Mhm.
everything is recorded in together. The orchestra is in one room with him in front. He is the exception. With all these other big composers, they've got like a team of 40 minions,
Mhm.
anonymous people who are doing literally all the work, all the writing, orchestration, the copying. A lot of these composers, this is the thing when I was this is the secret. Like they don't even know what's happening. They have not heard the cue. They don't know what you're writing. They're just like off like in some yacht, like I don't know. They're doing press conferences. They're the multimillionaires. They're the
They're
fancy.
the party in the Hollywood house.
They're getting all the credit. They're the rich people. They're great, but it's literally they have teams of these people who we will never hear about. And maybe we'll never get that little additional composer credit. It's brutal. And you can't speak up for yourself because there's that hierarchy. There's no safety net for you when you're out here. There's no like union that's going to protect you. For a composer, your boss or whomever tells you to go pick up my socks and then do my laundry and then go like there's no protection for you.
Right, that is also the thing too, right? It's like you're an assistant composer and you're going to run errands. You find out, oh, I'm going to learn how to write music, and you're
Or
running
like
around
when you
picking up things up.
drive
Yeah.
drive my secret girlfriend home. They're just like I mean, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for everything today. A little bit of in front of the scenes, a little bit behind the scenes, a little bit of positivity, a little bit of gossip behind the scenes. Anything you want to say before we roll out? Sharing places to send people, social medias, or website, or a project to keep track of, or words of wisdom, or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be around other creative people and I just want everybody just like you have to love it and really believe in yourself and not listen to anybody else. I think that's the most important thing is like not to listen. I wish this had been told to me when I was young. It was just like don't take advice from anybody you wouldn't want to trade places with.
That is
So
a good
that's like
one.
a big yeah, you could find me my social media is listed on the chat. But thank you so much for inviting me here to chat with you.
Yeah, sure. And I'll mention some of those too. LAOrcBand.com, ORCH, Orc Band, LA Orchestra. Lisa Liu, music.com, LIU. And then, of course, you could find her at IMDb, muso.ai for some credits. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. I'll walk us out with our outro text here. And if you don't mind, I'll stop the session. Then if you want to jump back on the Zoom, we'll do a little wrap up, just you and me, okay?
Sure.
After we sign off. Okay,
Okay.
well, we have reached the end of another musical journey here at Piano Tech Radio Hour. Thanks to Lisa for joining us. As always, we're brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, cutting edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. For those of you that joined us today by signing up for this session individually, make your life more convenient by subscribing to Piano Tech Radio Hour at just $16 a month. You get the recording of today's session in a member area, as well as automatic registration for each week's new session. You can sign up at bit.ly/join PTRH. That's bit.ly/join PTRH. And thanks again, and we'll see you next time.